Ladies and gentlemen, now one of you sent me this video and we are going to react to this video. But before that, obesity is a secret or a silent pandemic right now. And most people are suffering from obesity, but they don't know how to come out of that situation. Now, cases of weight gain in Africa started being a problem after the introduction of dietary and nutrition guidelines in about 1977. That's when we started having all these problems. But our traditional people used to be very lean, very tall, and very hardworking, literally all over with a lot of activity. And from our roots, we were hunters and gatherers. But nowadays, obesity is actually justified, is actually upheld in our modern societies. And the modern man and the modern woman are actually accepting it to be a very normal thing, being normalized. Now imagine how weird it sounds when you call somebody out for their weight and they start saying that that is body shaming. So now we are using these soft words to actually justify and normalize a health problem. We all know that obesity, this is you harboring fats that can actually expose you to heart disease, to stroke, and to all the chronic conditions that come with the accumulation of weight. And it's so saddening that we even have institutions that have built societies, that have built, like, let me say, homes to just accommodate the weird things in our societies. Obesity being part of it. Now, I know most women fall for the trap that thick thighs save life. Now, if you're obese with thick thighs, my question is, how many lives have you saved so far? If you're a man and you're fat, what are you doing to be better? Because remember this, all of us have a responsibility in what goes through our mouth. We have a choice to take things or not to take things through our mouths. We have a choice, or we make the decision of how frequent that food goes through your mouth. We also have a whole choice of how long that food will stay in that mouth. And when you talk about fasting, everybody becomes super emotional, everybody becomes super angry, and like even your doctors are always advising you against fasting because they tell you that if you're somebody who possibly has diabetes, when you fast, you can end up basically fainting. But the real deal is they don't talk about the drugs for diabetes that actually have a side effect of hypoglycemia that can actually lead you into fainting when you fast, when you're taking those drugs. But that aside, you have seen there is a new drug that is being used in the West for weight loss. It's also used for diabetes. And that drug is going to be a hotcake in Africa if we don't take care of ourselves. Health is your first wealth. So somebody sent me this video, and I would like your reactions to it in the comment section so that we get to know, are we really on the right track or are we messing it up? You've seen on TikTok, Kenya has two people who are actually eating. I think at least I know of the two who are famous, but I know there are more. There's one lady who literally visits every hotel, eat a lot of food and basically be paid, or she's actually being used to market and advertise these food industries in the hotels. You've also seen the other guy who has been contracted by a betting company just because he dances with a pot belly and he eats literally everything he puts his hand to. And it looks fun for now. How about 5 years from now when those betting companies, when those contracts will be out and this guy is left on his own? Because you don't sign an agreement with the betting company for insurance for your life, for your health. No. You sign a contract that you are supposed to advertise them, and through that, you earn a living. But you forget, even with that living, health is your first wealth. So these companies are not stupid. They will never make you sign a contract that will protect your life after all this drama that you've done online. Yes, you've danced for us. Yes, you've eaten all that food. And now it's time for you to reap the benefits of what you ate yourself into. And that moment in time, that's when you start realizing that little excitement, that fake high that you're getting from these foods and from the money that was coming in was really fake. And now you have to be on that hospital bed. You now have to take these medications. You now have to go through a surgical procedure. And you're going to spend a lot of money on these programs. Yet you would have saved this money for the better. So do not take food addiction as a joke. Do not joke with foods just because you want to impress the public. Don't be overwhelmed by the social media energy that is actually just pushing you towards your grave. Obesity should be rebuked. And if you're overweight or if you're obese, it's time for you to take individual responsibility to start losing that weight. Fat is toxic. Fat is 50% toxins. You cannot accumulate that fat and stay with it for a lifetime, hoping that or thinking that just because you have a pot belly, people call you chairman, people call you kiongozi. You think that belly fat is going to solve your problems in future. You're actually digging your own grave. We celebrate you now because of what you're doing. We are impressed, but you will be alone. It will not take you a long time. You will be alone. So let's look at this.
Free food.
Now, just before we continue, this is an obese gentleman, and you might think it's all fun here. But when I received this video from one of you, I was wondering what is actually going on here. And then I went deeper into it to do some research, and I realized that this is actually a real restaurant in the United States. And it's actually called the Heart Attack Grill. Now, this restaurant, you actually take your weight, and if you're above 350 pounds, that's over 150 kgs, you will be served with free food. Sit back and imagine that you are weighing over 150 kgs, and that is just a qualification for you to eat free food. So now, it is actually being celebrated that when you're obese, we can celebrate you, we can gift you free food. We want you to be so obese. We want you to continue being in that state so that we get a lot of money from you. Do you know how much insurance companies make from the sales of these drugs for weight loss? Do you know how much money they make from selling you antidepressants through the pharmacy and the doctors? Do you know how much money these companies make, the drug industries and the insurance companies make for you going through that knife to just get, or that blade to just get a surgery for weight loss, the bariatric surgeries? Do you know how much money is pumped into these insurance companies and these big pharma just to make sure that you never recover from obesity, you never recover from those chronic conditions? Because they know the more obese you are, the more or the longer you stay in that position, the better for them, because they'll extract money from you slowly but in a certain and in a gradual way until you go into your grave. By the time you're dying, they have all the resources that you ever accumulated is going back to them. They have it all. So imagine the excitement that is on the faces of these gentlemen when they're going to take this weight, because they know after this weight, they're going to eat free food, free burgers. This is a life situation. This is true. This is a hotel that is actually doing these things. Where are they getting the funding from? Who will be able to give you just free food? And do you know what? When you eat this food and you don't finish, imagine you qualified because you're obese. Now you're given food, and if you don't finish this food, you receive whips. And if you finish that food, other obese people will be clapping for you. Just wait and see. Now, if you hear the noise from the background, is totally fake. It's actually very artificial. Who are making this noise? Of course, other obese people who actually literally tried to take their weights and they realize they cannot get free food because they don't qualify. Or they have taken their weights, they are already waiting for more people so that they can get into the restaurants and get their free tokens of food. Now, on a shallow perspective, because when you look at it, you enjoy it, you have fun, and you move. On a shallow perspective, you're just saying that. But on a deeper perspective, look at it this way. Who is actually responsible for designing this restaurant? By the way, this restaurant looks like it's actually a model of a hospital. So somebody sat down and thought that if I design a food project that looks like a hospital, and inside the waiters are totally dressed in gowns like nurses, and the food is served as though it's medicine being taken to somebody who is sick. And then outside this restaurant, I put a weighing scale that will actually make sure that people feed themselves to be obese so that they come here for free foods. Who designed this? If you're wise, you already know that this is a creation of the food industry and the big pharma. Be always very keen with the third eye. Also realize that these guys are taking alcohol. So there's an alcohol place. You just take alcohol. Now you come take your weight. And then after that, you qualify. Once you're beyond 350 pounds, you qualify for free food. And then you get inside. When you get inside the restaurant, even the foods, how they are served. If you've not watched this documentary, simply go on YouTube and search the Heart Attack Grill. You will see what I'm talking about. So people walk inside that restaurant and there are waiters and waitresses, dressed like nurses in a nurse gown. They have waiters who are dressed like doctors, even with a stethoscope and with a tie. And they welcome you in and they serve you all the food. And now they even give you wine in an IV drip bag. That bag that carries those IV fluids that you take into your veins are actually used to carry wine. And now you have to feed yourself as though you are the patient. And they welcome you as a patient inside their hospital. And you sit back and we read research from these countries and we use that research for us. We take their dietary guidelines. We take their diabetes, hypertension, and obesity treatment guidelines and we embrace them without asking questions. These are countries that you call superpowers with so much degenerate behavior. They justify health conditions. Now, these are the people who will end up being swept by every single pandemic that comes by, that is actually created by the big pharma. You realize how COVID swept out people. These are the people who, during that COVID season, they wanted you as a lean person, you as a healthy individual, to put on a mask so that you can protect them from what they cost themselves. They sit there, eat themselves to being this much, and then they go to these restaurants, they eat free food because when you get to a certain level of fatness, you have no control over your appetite. You don't have control over your hormones. And now what you have to do is just to load your stomach with more food and more food and more food. And who makes the profits? The food industry. And then who makes the profits later? The big pharma. So tell me if I'm overthinking that this is not a creation of the big pharma. Tell me if I'm not overthinking that the diabetes society makes you feel like you're part of a society so you don't have to recover from diabetes. This is something that makes the obese feel like they're at home because misery loves company. So they sit in that hotel, they eat themselves to death, and then if they don't finish because they're eating up to 20,000 calories of burger. And we are here justifying it. If you look at this video on TikTok, it has more than 20 million views. If you look at that video on YouTube, it has 9.7 million views. These are people who actually look at these people and think it's okay to be fat. It's okay to be obese. Like if I'm fat, there are people who understand my story. Now nobody understands your story. Health is a personal journey. You have to walk it alone. So these types of videos, I don't even need to finish it up. These types of videos are so annoying that they can even get in between your journey of getting to success stories. Please, if you're obese or if you're overweight, that is a sign that your body is already trying to resist what you're eating. Your body is lenient enough. It was actually designed perfectly to protect you, and it's trying as much as possible to protect you. But what are you doing? You're feeding it with a lot of bad foods. You're falling for the trap of the food industry through guidelines. These are the guidelines that we embrace, and then we start practicing them. And then you're wondering why you have all these childhood obesity cases going up. You're wondering why there is all these skin allergies, respiratory allergies, diabetes going up, even though there's so much money pumped into diabetes societies. Even if there's so much money pumped into the new technologies and new research about diabetes, hypertension, and cancer, you're wondering where this is coming from. You have the answers. Don't rely on your regulatory bodies to help you lose weight. Don't rely on any herbs to help you lose weight. You ate yourself to obesity. It is time for you to eat yourself out of obesity. Carbohydrates are non-essential in your diets. They will not help you unless they are whole carbohydrates. The sweet potatoes, the green bananas, the butternuts, the pumpkins, the arrowroots, the beans. These are your sources of carbohydrates, whole and natural. Put aside the guidelines. Start using common sense. Eat healthy foods. Eat those animal proteins and make them fatty. Eat the vegetables. Eat all types of spices as long as they are organic. Enjoy your minerals, salt, but drop the sugars, drop the ultra processed foods, drop restaurant foods because you don't have control over the cooking oils that they use. You don't have control over such types of things. Whatever you consume in the media, you should be very cautious about it because I'm looking at this video and wondering, there is obviously a lady or a man, a gentleman in Kenya who is obese. And he has to sit in that house and order Uber Eats. As these people eat their foods, he's also eating his and watching movies. Children are being captured from the time they are small, from the time they are babies, through emotional marketing on television and on social media platforms. Nowadays, you give your child these types of information through phones. You buy your children phones. So you're raising zombies. And then you sit back and wonder, why are you always in the pharmacy buying cough syrups, buying antihistamines, buying antibiotics every other time, killing the immunity of this child for a lifetime? I am glad in Kenya there is one cough syrup that has been so problematic to babies and has been recalled by the pharmaceutical company. But how much damage has it caused so far? Before it is being recalled, it has already made the profits that it was intended to. And sometimes these recalls are just vague. They're just there to brainwash you. Maybe it's a deal that has gone wrong, so they just bring it up so that they can actually cover up for something. Be very cautious with what you consume in the media. Be very conscious about what guidelines say. Most of the times, if you want to lead a healthy life, go against the guidelines, the nutritional guidelines, because your nutritionist is obese. Your doctor is obese, but is telling you how to lose weight. How is that even possible? So I looked at this video and I felt so bad because these are the things that we've kept on preaching on these platforms. But we are being ignored. Do not be one of those people who ignore this information. It's coming to you for free. Please lose the weight. You can easily join our social media platforms, share these videos. Those people who deserve them, I have put out a stepwise way to lose weight in a whole video. Share it, watch it, like it, comment on it, and also spread it widely so that we save our African brothers and sisters from such types of things. If you see the last gentleman who is walking here, the last gentleman who is walking here is actually a black person. And in the US, black people, the black race, are people who are so totally affected by fatherlessness and these types of things, obesity and these chronic conditions. They don't love themselves. Because if they love themselves, we wouldn't have all these cases of obesity being present in the black community in the US. But again, we don't care about them. We don't. It's none of our business. We handle African business the African way. Eat whole foods, eat all types of meats, red and white, make them fatty, enjoy vegetables, start fasting, enjoy whole and natural foods, eat salt and rehydrate, sleep, enjoy the sun, exercise. This is free healthcare. Embrace it.